Is it worth it to book a trip to Walt Disney World in the summer, or are the crowds and the heat truly unbearable? I'm going to answer these questions and more with you today as we have fun at Disney's Magic Kingdom. It just so happens to be a hot summer day today, so it's a perfect day to be answering these questions. Hello my lovely humans, I'm Kenzie, and today I'm going to cover everything you need to know about going to Walt Disney World in the summer. I of course will share what the weather is truly like, what the crowds are truly like, but I'm also going to cover some unexpected pros and some unexpected cons, or as I like to call them, considerations for coming during this time of year. I will also share my ultimate recommendation if I think it's worth booking a trip during the summer or not, and I will share some pro tips if you do decide to come during the summer along the way. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started.
It feels like summer.
I am going to start by answering the question that I get asked the most frequently, and that is about the temperature. Is it really as bad as people say? And the answer to that is honestly, yes, it is. It's extremely hot and humid in Florida, especially during the summer months. To put it into perspective, I've been in the park for about 15 minutes. I'm already drenched in sweat. My curls have fallen out. My hair has had to go up. It's just the reality of the situation of summers in Florida. As far as temperatures are concerned, you can really expect to see anything, I would say, on average between 90 degrees to 100 plus degrees. And that's not even taking into account the humidity factor, which is also extremely high in the state of Florida. And that also increases that feels like temperature essentially while you're here in the summer. So it is extremely hot. However, I do think there are some practical workarounds that you can implement and do to make it still possible to come when it is this hot and humid. The first thing that I always like to recommend to people is to take air conditioning breaks and make sure they are part of your park plan. Whenever you're feeling really hot and overheated, don't push through that. Take a break in the air conditioning, sit, relax, do whatever you need to do to cool down before you kind of continue on your day. Another thing I like to recommend for the summer is to consider booking an advanced dining reservation for a restaurant where you can sit down for an hour or so in the air conditioning and eat your lunch. It's just a great way to kind of take that break and have it scheduled midday so you can also get out of the heat in the hottest part of the day. Another thing you can consider doing is you can go back to your resort and just kind of take a nap or sit in the air conditioning and watch TV or play a game or something, or even go down to the pool and then come back maybe when it's cooled down just a little bit. So that's something else you can consider doing. Another pro level tip is I do recommend bringing a refillable water bottle with you. Otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of money on water bottles in Florida. It's just really important that you stay hydrated. So the one that I have with me is this hydro flask. I'll link it below if you're interested on Amazon, but I bring it, and there are refillable water bottle stations in all of the parks. So they do make it extremely easy for you to be able to do that, so you can stay hydrated if you want. You just pull up your My Disney Experience app and you filter by the water stations, and it will show you where they all are. So that is another great way to stay cool. Another thing that I recommend that you do is rope drop. I will be honest, this is a very controversial thing to say, but I really do not like rope dropping most of the time, and I don't always recommend it for everybody. But during the summer, I do think it's important because you do get a little bit of cooler temperatures in the morning, which is great. You can knock out some of those more outdoor attractions during that time when the temperatures are a little bit lower, and you can also get more park time because you are going to need to burn some park time taking more frequent breaks. And so I do think that rope dropping is an excellent thing to do during the summer. It's also important to note that if you are staying at a Walt Disney World resort, you can also get 30 minutes of early entry into any theme park during your trip. So take advantage of that. Consider being extra early so that you can ride whatever you want to ride and knock out some great things in the morning, and you don't have to feel guilty taking breaks in the midday, afternoon, or whenever you really need them. Another thing that a lot of people do not realize is that Florida has a rainy season, and it is during the summer. It rains almost every single day during the summer months in Florida, typically anywhere from 2 to 5 p.m., but sometimes they're a little bit later in the evening as well. So just keep that in mind and make sure that you plan accordingly. You definitely want to know that some outdoor attractions will not be open in the rain, and especially if it's lightning or thundering, which it typically is during these rainstorms. And so you may want to try to ride the outdoor attractions either earlier in the day, rope dropping them, or saving them for later in the evening in hopes that everything is kind of done by then. It's also not uncommon for it to rain all day. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you pack rain gear during the summer months. You want to have a poncho because the rain will blow sideways here in Florida almost every night. And you'll just get soaking wet if you just have an umbrella. But I do recommend having an umbrella as well, not only for the rain, but also for shade. It just does wonders when there's not shade around. Trust me, get one with kind of that black under UV blocking material and you will be so happy that you did. I will link a really good one on Amazon that's like small, lightweight, and pretty compatible for travel if you want to buy the same one that we have. Also, it's important to note that the summer is technically hurricane season as well in Florida, which I know can be a concern for a lot of people, so I did want to mention that as well. Technically, hurricane season starts on June 1st and goes through November 30th, so it is very long. I would say the summer months are not super common for hurricanes to hit, so that part is, you know, pretty nice. 90% of hurricanes in Florida hit anywhere from August to October, so not as common in the earlier summer months, but technically it can happen, so I do have to mention that as well. I have technically ridden a hurricane out at Walt Disney World, so if you are curious about what that experience is like, I will link the video in the corner, so feel free to watch it after this video if you do want to hear what would happen if that does happen to you during your trip.
It feels like summer.
The second most commonly asked question I get is about how the crowds are in the summer. And historically, summer was an extremely busy time of year at Walt Disney World, but that has definitely changed in the past 5 years or so. I would say it's more of a moderate kind of level now, but of course it's still going to be pretty busy anytime schools are out. Makes sense, families on vacation, so that's, you know, spring break, fall break, the holidays, and of course the summer months as well. Overall, I would say June and July are very moderate level crowd months, with the exception of the 4th of July date and the surrounding dates around that usually are busy and very heavy, so keep that in mind. But otherwise, I would say it's very moderate. And August, I would go as far as to say that the crowds are light in August. I think the reason for that is because, you know, most schools are about to start up or have started back up, and so people aren't really going on vacations as much during that time. So August is an extremely light month as well.
It feels like summer.
There are a ton of pros to coming to Walt Disney World during the summer. In fact, a lot of people either don't know about the pros that I'm about to tell you, or they're just not known. So I'm really excited to talk about this list with you. The first is that if you do come to Walt Disney World during the summer, the park hours are longer, which is great for multiple reasons. The first is that obviously it's cooler once the sun goes down. It's still hot and humid, but it is cooler, and it's a great time to, you know, get things done. So that part is nice because you have more hours in the evening to knock things out. Another reason why it's nice is because you don't have to feel guilty about taking the breaks when you need them, because you have more hours in your day in order to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish. So that part is truly magical in my opinion. Another thing that a lot of people do not realize is that Disney tends not to schedule refurbishments for attractions during the summer unless there really isn't a choice. The reason for that is they know it's a busier time of year and people want to experience as much as possible, and so they do their best not to schedule things for maintenance during that time, so more tends to be open during the summer months, which is a huge positive, especially if you don't get to come very often or it's your first trip, so that's another bonus. I would say another thing that is not well known, but is important to point out, is that it is very common for Disney to open new experiences during the summer. So that could be a new attraction, a new show, a new parade, a new nighttime spectacular. All sorts of new things do tend to open during the summer months, just as an added bonus for those who, you know, brave the heat during the summer. And a lot of people don't really pay attention to Disney's opening schedule, but of course I'm a Disney nerd and I do, so I had had to pay that information forward. It's always nice when you get to experience something for the first time, or be like one of the first few that gets to experience something for the first time. It's extra magical. And so that's another thing I wanted to point out to all of you. Another thing is that there are special events during the summer months. I will say that some of these things are also included outside of the summer months. But one example is H2O Glow Nights, and essentially what that is a specially ticketed event to a Disney water park after hours, and you get a couple of hours where the crowds are not high because they limit capacity at these events. You do have to pay extra for them, so that part's not, you know, the best, but they are a lot of fun, so I think they are worth it. And there's like a DJ out there, and everyone kind of like has glow sticks on. There's special fun lighting. You get free snacks as well. So that's kind of a fun experience that you can do during the summer as an add-on. Another thing that is similar is a Disney after hours event, and that's at one of the Disney theme parks. After the park closes, again, it's limited capacity. You have to pay extra for it, but the lines are much shorter. You get those free snacks, drinks, a lot of fun, and you get on rides with really low wait times. And so that's another fun thing that is typically available during the summer months as well. Of course, it's a great time to enjoy pool time and the water parks, so that's another added bonus. And lastly, it's kind of hard to say this, I would say, in probably an appropriate way, but I do think it's important to point out, and that is that the people that tend to come during the summer are not typically planners. They either don't know you have to plan, they don't want to plan, and they just come winging it kind of situation, or maybe they just don't have the time or whatever. But that means that it is easier for you to plan, and you probably are planners since you're watching a video like this, and it'll be easier to get, you know, those hard to get dining reservations, experiences, and just to have a magical day because you are more prepared, which I know sounds terrible to say. I want everyone to know they need to plan, which is why I make these videos. But if you don't know, and there's less people that do know, it is easier to have, you know, a magical trip. I guess unfortunately, but fortunately, I don't know. I know it sounds bad, but it's true, and I have to point it out. So anyway, lots of good pros. I almost forgot to share one of my favorite things about the summer months, and that is Disney's 4th of July celebration. As a fair warning, it will ruin all future 4th of July celebrations for you. It's also a very crowded time to visit, but it is worth it in my opinion, just because of how much fun it is and how unique it is. Magic Kingdom will have DJs all around, dance parties, an epic, spectacular fireworks show, and the vibes are just so much fun during the 4th of July. Epcot does a couple of special things as well, although Magic Kingdom is our favorite for the 4th of July. So it is something to consider, you know? It's a fun time to come, a unique time to come, although it is a little bit more crowded. If you have a longer trip, you will have some days that are a little bit less crowded, but it is definitely worth checking out at least once if you can make it work.
Feels like summer.
Up next, let's talk about the cons, or as I like to call them, considerations of booking a trip in the summer. The first is one that's obvious that I've already hit on, and that is the weather. The heat is really brutal. So if you aren't tolerant to it, or someone in your party is not tolerant to it, and you know that, then it's probably not best to book in the summer. The rain can also be a little bit annoying or extreme at times, so that's another factor to take into consideration. Another consideration to point out is that you're going to be kind of barely missing some really special things. So for example, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party technically starts around mid-August most of the time. So this year it's August 15th. And that's technically still summer, but most kids have gone back to school by then, or it's too close to them starting and it just doesn't make sense to book a trip. But Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is one of those specialty ticketed events that is just so much fun. It's basically Disney's Halloween celebration. You can dress up in costumes if you want. There's special photo pass experiences and pictures. There's special entertainment, a special fireworks show, a special parade, for example. You can trick or treat. There's special treats and snacks that you can buy, special characters that you can meet, and just like so many fun things that you can do. And so the fact that you're likely going to be barely missing it, or barely in the window for maybe like the first party or two, that part is a little bit of a bummer. Another thing to take into account are the Epcot festivals. If you've never been to an Epcot festival, those are free, and they're all a little bit unique and different, but they all have special entertainment opportunities and special things that you can do, like special concerts and just unique things. It depends on the festival, so it's kind of like hard to describe like in a succinct way. And there's also special food booths and drink booths during the festivals, and it just really gives Epcot more life. But during the summer, there really isn't a lot going on. You're either going to catch the tail end of Flower and Garden, so that technically ends around the beginning of June most of the time. It's important to note that these dates do change every year, so it's all subject to change, and you definitely are going to want to double check. But this year it's June 2nd, and so you basically would be most likely missing Flower and Garden if you come during the summer, except for maybe that couple day window that technically falls in the summer range. And then Food and Wine, it doesn't start until the end of August. This year it's August 28th, and that's pretty typical for Food and Wine. So you likely would miss that again because most kids are back to school by then, and you're probably not planning a trip for the end of August. But that is just something to take into account, that you may kind of miss out on some of those more special things unless you are a little bit flexible and can somehow book right at the beginning of June or at the end of August. So I do like to point those things out as well.
Feels like summer.
It is finally time to answer your burning question. Do I feel like it is worth coming to Walt Disney World in the summer? And my answer is maybe. If the summer is the only time you can come, I say yes, absolutely come. Just make sure you plan appropriately and you make sure you have those breaks, plenty of water, all the things. You're still gonna have a magical time, but it's gonna be hot and it's gonna be humid and it's gonna rain. So just set your expectations appropriately. If you can come any other time that is not the summer, where it is a little bit cooler, I do recommend choosing that date over the summer if you can, just because overall I feel like the heat of the summer really does kind of ruin the experience for a lot of people. But everyone kind of knows their own heat tolerances and where they stand with that the best. For example, we lived in Dallas before moving to Orlando, so we were pretty used to the humidity and the heat. So it didn't really bother us as much as maybe it would bother someone from California, for example, who wasn't as used to it. Although it has been, I know, pretty hot there lately in the summers. But yeah, you kind of know your family the best, so you can use all of the information I shared to make the best decision for you. If you do come during the summer, I do recommend trying to come in August if you can, primarily because the crowds are so low and because you may be able to catch Food and Wine, or you may be able to catch a Halloween party. But again, I know August is hard if you have school-age children, but August is definitely the best summer month out of all of them if you do have to choose one.
Feels like summer.
If you do decide to come to Disney World during the summer or one of the warmer months, which is truly most months in Florida, then I have some helpful tips for you that I wanted to share. I made a list before this video because I think it's important to set you up for success. The first thing is you are going to want to bring multiple pairs of moisture-wicking clothes. So workout clothes are a great thing to consider. Girls sometimes will wear tennis skirts, tennis dresses, anything like that that will just kind of get rid of the moisture is definitely a good thing to consider. I also tell people to pack more clothes than they need because you're gonna wanna be changing with how sweaty you're getting. I know it sounds gross, but it's important to think about these things, especially if you're going back to the resort midday to like nap or hang out in the AC. Like the last thing you're gonna wanna do is put on like really gross, sweaty, cold clothes. So definitely bring more than you need. And even if you're planning on staying in the park all day, I think it's still worth considering maybe bringing an extra pair with you, because once the sun goes down, it is kind of nice just to kind of change your clothes. If you have an extra pair in your backpack and you just change in the bathroom or something, I've been known to do that, I'll be honest. So definitely worth considering doing that. I also recommend bringing multiple pairs of shoes, and that's for multiple reasons. One is you're going to be walking a lot. It's not, uncommon to have have 10 plus mile days at Disney, of course, and your shoes will start rubbing in weird places and all the things. So it's good to just at least have two to alternate between, but also because of the rain, it's likely that one's gonna get wet and you're gonna wanna have a pair that's drying while the other one is, wet and things like that. So you definitely wanna do that. And because of the rain, again, make sure you do bring some ponchos. If you do forget or you don't wanna buy them in advance, then Disney does sell them when it rains here. So you can get them in the gift shops if you do wanna do that option instead. I still recommend the umbrella, especially for the sun, but also for the rain. It's just nice to have both. Another thing is if you have a little, you're gonna wanna make sure you have a stroller cover for their stroller because again, it's gonna rain. So really anytime you go ride an attraction, I recommend going ahead and just putting it on if you're coming in the summer because of those kind of random rainstorms. It's just better to be sure that it stays dry. Another thing is you're gonna want a little stroller fan for your little as well to try to help them stay as cool as possible. And it's not a bad idea to even get a neck fan for yourself. A lot of people do walk around wearing them. I know it probably seems kind of like a weird concept when you're not here, but when you are here, you do see it pretty often, and it's pretty normal. One thing to note though is if you have long hair, you do have to be a little bit careful. Don't get it stuck in like the fan blades. I will link some of all of this kind of stuff. If you want an example, the reason why I do that is because every time people will ask me like what version we have or whatever, and I know it's helpful. So I'll just create an Amazon list called Summer and everything will be listed there that I'm talking about. Another thing that a lot of people will do too is they'll bring like cooling towels for their neck. And you can also buy them here again if you don't buy one in advance and bring them here. Everything's a little marked up here at Disney, so it's kind of nice to, buy it before and bring it sometimes. But if you forget or don't want to, that's okay. You can get them when you're here too. And the cooling fans, or the cooling towels definitely do help. You can just go into the bathroom and put some water on them and then put them around your neck. And yeah, I actually had someone tell me that worked on roofing in Florida that it's actually better if you're trying to cool yourself down fast to put cooling towels around your wrist versus your neck. So maybe it's worth, trialing that out to see if it helps you or not. I personally think it does help a little bit. So, we'll trial and error there to see what works best for you. And then of course, you're gonna wanna bring anything you would normally bring on a sunny, hot day. You wanna have a hat, you wanna have plenty of sunscreen, you wanna have sunglasses, plenty of socks, all the things. So I believe that's everything on the list. If I forgot anything, I'll pop back on and tell you, but those are the tried and true things that I think are super important. And again, you wanna make sure you're taking those breaks. Consider scheduling some sit-down lunches or going back to the resort or being in air conditioning in some way, indoor attractions, indoor queues, all the things. There are more tips I can give you when it comes to staying cool here at the parks. And if you are interested in something like that, like which attractions are best, where are good spots to take breaks, those types of things, I can make a video like that for you. So let me know if you're interested in something like that in the comments. If you found the information in this video helpful, it would mean so much to me if you would consider subscribing. I share a lot of helpful Disney planning content here on this channel, and in return, I promise I will keep showing up each and every week and trying to be better for you each and every week. It also helps me a lot if you hit that like button and if you ring the bell notification so that you're notified every single time I post a video. It lets YouTube know that you really enjoyed the content and they'll push it out to more people. A huge heartfelt thank you to my patrons who are truly the heart and soul of this channel. Without them, it would not exist. If you'd like to consider joining us and you want more exclusive behind the scenes content with me, the link to join will be in the description below. Until next time, I'm Kenzie. See you real soon.